If you've ever shopped online, and let's face it, who hasn't? Chances are you've bought something from a business powered by Shopify. You know that purple Shop Pay button you see at checkout? The one that makes buying so incredibly easy? That's Shopify. And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes things easier, and not just for shoppers. They make it easy to start and run your business. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started. It gives you a leg up from day dot with hundreds of beautiful ready-to-go templates to express your brand style so you can get up and running fast. You can tackle your important tasks, from inventory to payments to analytics and more, all in one place. You can also spread your brand's word with built-in marketing and email tools built for you to find and keep new customers. And remember that iconic purple Shop Pay button that's used by millions of businesses around the world? It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Your customers already know and love it. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. Shopify.com/realm.
Can you change your personality? How does peer pressure work? Should you ever really trust your gut? These are just a few of the topics we've recently tackled on my podcast, Something You Should Know. It's a podcast where leading experts give you valuable intel that you can use in your life today. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and with over 1,000 episodes and over 4,000 mostly 5-star reviews, I invite you to check out Something You Should Know, wherever you listen.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Spade Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes, too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders, because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now listen, there will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate Jr.
And welcome to our very special Spotlight episode on Eric Kripke, creator of Supernatural. We're calling it Swan Song Part 2, Kripke Reloaded.
This time it's personal.
That's right.
Because we get a little personal in the interview.
We do
That's
get
what
personal.
I mean.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, it's so good. So
I
good.
can't write this crap. That's all me. All me. Emmy people. If that's what you win for podcasting.
I don't think you can win
a podcasty, whatever the awards are.
I don't think you can, you can get an Emmy for podcasting, but.
Rob, do you have any recollection of what our first Spotlight with Kripke covered?
No, I do remember that there was one question that we didn't end up asking this time, and I was okay letting it go because we asked him the first time. But yeah, I kept thinking, wait, did I say this the first time?
Yeah. Well, when we listen to them back to back, it'll be a surprise to us too.
I know this here from my notes that it did cover the development of Supernatural and his time with the series.
Well, that narrows it down.
Yeah, but in this conversation, we'll be chatting about his experience after leaving the show.
Which is not really true because we've already done the interview, and there's still a lot about the show.
Yeah.
So we really stick with the show because I had some questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a real mixture, a real goulash of Benedict and Spate, which is really what makes this podcast churn. And nevertheless, either whatever we talked about, it was a great interview.
Dude, anytime you get Kripke to come talk about the show he created and the world he built, it's a good interview.
Yeah, it was great to have him back. And
we got to run 20 minutes of silence of this Kripke staring at the camera, and that's a great interview right there.
That's a great pod. You could win an Emmy for that.
A podcasting.
And without further ado, here's our interview with the man himself, Eric Kripke. So, yes, we are talking about Supernatural here on the Supernatural podcast. And last time we had you on, Eric, we didn't get to ask you all the questions. And of course, we have so many because you are the brain behind this whole thing. And so we're thanks for coming back, and talking to us.
I'm thrilled to see you guys. Always happy to be here and see you.
So let's kind of jump off where we last left, which was Swan Song, your last official episode at the end of season 5.
What season are you guys on?
7.
Regular
7.
Wow.
Yeah, we're in it.
Right.
Second half of 7. Yeah.
Yeah, you're almost, but not at the halfway point.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we've been doing the podcast
insane.
For 4 or 5 years.
7
Yeah,
years.
exactly. I had just met my wife. And now we have an 18-year-old. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say my wife was pregnant when we started, and he just left for college.
Not even false. So how far in advance did you have the final plot and structure of Swan Song locked down? With Baby being the focal point and it being kind of a love letter to the show that my character narrated. And did you have that in mind at the beginning of season 5 or?
We did not at all. We knew the big mechanics, right? Like we knew that it was going to come down to Michael versus Lucifer, brother versus brother, that the universe is depending on these two brothers. Hopefully it was going to be Sam and Dean, but Dean opted out. So it ended up being the other brother. But the idea being that the core of the conflict between the two brothers was going to be reflected on a universe-wide scale. That was always the notion. And then it was going to come to a final head. But then Dean was going to just interrupt it. You have these two giant forces, then you have one human, playing classic rock, and he just fucks up the biggest, most important battle of the universe. And that was where we always knew, we knew we were going there.
Right.
I think it was during the break, if I remember correctly, that there was a lot of conversation about what is the thing that is going to snap Sam out of it, and how do we give it the ultimate amount of importance. And I think we talked about it for a while, if I remember correctly. And there was different things. And I think one of the reasons that Army Man is in the show is because at one point it was the Army Man. It was very, very specific about what we were looking for.
Right.
And I remember coming in one day and I'm like, okay, so I actually distinctly remember this, telling it to Ben Edlin and Jenny Klein of there's I'm like, okay, there's the Army Man. And they go, yeah. I'm like, widen out. And they go, okay. I'm like, what do you see? And they're like, what the f*** are you talking about? I don't know. And I'm like, the car. It's the car. And they were like, right, the car. And so once we realized it's the car, then we were like, oh, well, we should then really lean into what makes the car special to Sam.
Right.
Because we had to make up a lot of time about we really need to, really create a relationship. Dean has a relationship with Baby, and that's obvious. Sam's wasn't as obvious. And so we needed to really lean into what it meant to him and both of them. And so then from there came well, what if we start telling these short stories, about the car, and what if we had Chuck narrate them? And then for me, the big one was that opening, with the film. And
so cool. I mean, just so cool.
What was it? It was, I forget the number, the 10 millionth
off the line
Chevy off the line. That was all real. That's real footage that really happened. And it really was a month before they would have been rolling the Impalas off the line, like all that. So sometimes you find just a piece of history that's just serendipity, and you're like, oh, we're just going to build it around that. Like, that's incredible, and it's totally true.
Yeah.
And then we found the footage, and Chevy let us use it. And I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, what a great
literally it's a love letter to a car. I mean,
exactly.
And now, the Impala makes an appearance at every convention we do, which is crazy.
Right. I mean, there's a couple of them, and they're amazing.
Well, that's so cool. I mean, it really, the episode came out so well. It's such a great idea,
To follow up on that part, there's, music was so essential to Supernatural's first 5 seasons. It was such a great soundtrack of classic rock, and you end with Rock of Ages. Was that by design, or was that just like, what would be cool here? Did you have that in mind?
There was probably, as there always is, there's probably like a grouping of like 3 or 4 songs that I'd be okay with in that moment, because you just don't know if the band's going to clear them, or can you afford it? Like, you just don't know until you go down the road.
Right.
So you can't just have one option, but it had to be one that happens to be a song that means a lot to me, just because it's so evocative of a time and a place for me. Like, whether I was like something like 7th grade or something, but like the gloopin', gloppin', glopin', like that was such an iconic part of my childhood that I was just so, like, it had to have been a song to have done that. Like, sometimes we've had classic rock on the show that I'm like, yeah, it's great. Who doesn't like that song? But I needed one that was
that resonated for you personally.
Exactly.
So as you approach this, I have to ask, were you ever thinking as you got close, like that episode is outstanding, by the way, which Rob and I have talked about before. It's just so elevated, even beyond the already very high standard of Supernatural,
Shout out to Steve Boyum.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, shout out to Steve Boyum, to the serendipity that you discussed earlier of like finding this footage. Because part of what makes it so great is you immediately know you're watching footage from the 70s and 60s on 16 millimeter or 8 millimeter, whatever it is. Like it just changes the landscape of what you're viewing. And then how he navigated intercutting whatever he shot with 2 little kid actors to make it feel like it was matching. And it was great. It was so cool. And finding those details in the car, it was all the specificity of what was going on.
Can I also tell you, I have a confession, which is I don't rewatch many episodes or many things of the show or anything, frankly, because it's like
totally
reopening all my wounds every time. So like you only see the things you wish you could have done different. By a mile, the stuff I watch the most are Rob's Impala short stories. Because you can get them like online, someone cut them all together.
Oh, wow.
And like, I'll watch that like as a self-soothing like thing. Like, I've maybe seen that like 30 times, and I've maybe seen every other episode of the show I've worked on 5 times.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
All combined.
I'm not surprised. So. It really is. I remember seeing that at the time and going like, holy cow. I mean, and it just holds up and resonates. Yeah. So my question is, I know it was an emotional journey for you, probably wrapping up. At any point in the process, as you were making that episode with Boyum, with the team, where you're like, shit, why am I leaving? Like, did you ever have a moment of, I love this gal?
It's funny. It's like going back to what I'm saying about the boys. Like, I was so tired. I was running on fumes for like a while at that point, and 22 a year. I mean, we had the writer's strike in the middle of it, but I think it was like 106 episodes over 4.5, 5 years, and I was exhausted. I was really burnt out. So what I always said was, I don't want to do the job if I don't know what I want to do next with the guys. And for the first time heading into season 5, I'm like, I don't know what to do next with them. Like, I don't know what other story I want to tell now. And that really scared me. And that's why I thought it was so important to bring in Sarah, because you for that show to work, the person who runs it has to be hungry. You have to like, oh, I want to try something different. I want to do like the secret weapon of that show is how out of the box it is, you know, and no one pays attention because it's like this little monster show on the CW, but the fans who are inside it know that like it breaks form, it breaks format, it takes risks left, right, and center all the time. Crazy risks that big shows would never do. But in order to do that, you need someone at the helm who's like, I want to try to push this into places nothing's ever been before. And I wasn't doing that anymore. I was like, I just need to take a nap. So I knew that I was like, it's time to build to, I mean, look, here's the really selfish thing I did. And I really fucked over Sarah, you know, is like the really classy move would have been to withhold what was obviously my finale and, you know, give it to the progeny down the line.
Right.
Like save it. But I was like, it's my last show. It's the last one I'm officially running as showrunner. Like I want to do my fucking ending. And so I did. And then like Sarah had just a Herculean task. I did her no favors because I ended the single biggest mythology in the show. And then she has to pick up the pieces and start out like, oh, so post Thanos, I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah.
So that was a little selfish of me, but I felt I earned it.
Yeah, hell yeah, you did. And, you know, I always say to people, it's kind of that, you know, it was your love letter to the show before you left. And also at the time, you don't know how many more years this show's going to go. It's, you know, see that we were always on the bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
The show was always on the bubble. So you maybe 1, 2 more years, who knows? But, you know, little did you know it's going to be 10 more seasons.
Yeah. And I'm really proud of Sarah. Like I remember taking her to, I think we had drinks at the smokehouse, the infamous smokehouse across the street from Warner Brothers.
Ah, yes.
And I was pitching her why I wanted her to do it. And the example I gave was like, so think of like Alien and Aliens, same subject matter, same character, totally different approach. I said, that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Like, just take this thing and make it into, don't try to make my show, make your show. And then Jeremy made his show and then Andrew made his show. And it's like the format was versatile enough to really allow that. And I think it was really healthy for the show. I don't think the show would have gone 15 years. I think it would have stagnated quickly had there not been these infusions of new blood. So, you know, look, I love the team so much and I miss them and to this day. And part of it was also like, once I got my first show or two after Supernatural, I was like, oh dear Lord, it's fucking brutal out here. Like, like maybe I should have been stuck with Supernatural longer, but I didn't realize that until like a year later. But it was my time. It was time to move on. It was the right time. And if I could, I'd do it again the same way if I could.
So you segue out with, you get Sarah Gamble all excited. She's now taking over. But then we noticed as we're watching season 6, your name is still up there. You're still around, right? Like you didn't just leave the room and that was it. We heard the squeaking door close behind you. You were still very much involved in the transition team, if you will.
Correct. I was basically season 6's consigliere, I would say. Creative. Right. I mean, she still had Bob, right? So it's like you have Bob Singer, you have the guy who is, and I'll say it again and again until I die, the day I die, like the most consistent and important voice in Supernatural in its totality is Bob Singer. Yeah. Like that's the one constant from the very first episode to the very last episode. And he deserves so much more credit than he gets. I mean, part of it is he doesn't like credit and he gets grumpy when anyone gives him credit. But like, it's when you want to talk about a coherent vision of the show from seasons 1 to 15, I mean, he's the guy. So he was still there, but the deal I had made with Warner Brothers was I was going to come in, I think like 2 days a week, 3 days a week. So like I would come in, you know, kind of help Sarah with like what the ins and outs are. She was a natural born showrunner and took to it quickly and easily, but it was crazy. And a lot of times it was a lot of like, she's like, can you just jump in on episode 6 and be in the room with those guys? Or could you just do a pass on this script? Like it was just, mostly I was just another set of hands because she didn't need that much advice.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in that capacity, were you at the office every day or did you come in when called?
No, I came in like clockwork. I came in, I think it was 2 days a week.
Oh, okay.
So it was like Tuesdays and Thursdays I would come in. And then the other days I was like writing my own shit.
Right.
And then you wrote the season finale of 6?
I did, yeah.
And how did that come about? Was that part of the deal?
I mean, I think it was part of the discussion with Sarah. I mean, I didn't need to write it. I think Sarah was like, will you write it? And I said, yeah, sure, I'm here. And, you should get one script out of me. So, so I wrote it.
And what was that like going back and, getting on the saddle again?
I mean, I remember it was like a little weird just because I was like, oh, okay, I got to catch these guys' voices again.
Yeah.
But like, I really was there. Like French Mistake was season 6.
Yeah.
And I was with Ben for every second of that break.
Oh, wow.
And that one still remains my favorite break, my favorite script, probably my favorite episode of the show.
It's fantastic.
Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's genius.
And so it's not like I was like, oh, hey, who are these guys? And is he gonna, should he say ass butt or what? Like I knew.
Right.
I mean, I was there and I was breaking it, so it was pretty clean. It was fine. I mean, it was mostly just how do you top, or not top, but like how do you deliver something that was as interesting as Swan Song, which again was hard. And so you can tell we pulled every memento trick out of our ass that we could to like, it was what I remember of that script of like,
funny.
It's a little bit of like, look here, we're changing the structure and Sam doesn't know who he is and he's in his head. And we were trying all this to distract from, we were just basically rebuilding a mythology.
Did you write any more after that? Or was that it?
That was it.
So you mentioned Steve Boyum, who is of course just a renegade pirate of a director. He's just awesome. Stunt guy turned journeyman director with, stories as long as my arm. Like he's just a really interesting dude, right? Great job. Great guy for the job. But how did he get that slot? Like it always seems like that'd be a Bob Singer or even an Eric Kripke wanting to direct the finale. How did it fall to Steve?
It wasn't me because I had if this was 2010, my wife, our son was born May 2010.
Oh.
So I couldn't have been there to direct the finale because I would have been divorced. And I don't remember why it wasn't Bob, but you obviously have to go with one of your most trusted directors. I don't know why it wasn't Phil either, now that I think of it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I obviously having it be Steve makes 100% sense.
Totally.
But so do a couple of other in-house guys.
Right. There's about 3 guys who could have done it. It'd have been Phil or Bob or Steve. Steve just consistently directs some of the best episodes of the show. And I just knew he'd kick the shit out of it. And he did. I've worked with Steve since then, by the way. Like he was on Revolution. He has done a couple episodes of The Boys. He was just the producing director on the 2nd season of Gen V, the spinoff show.
Yeah.
So like I will never unclench my grip on Steve Boyum, which sounded 30% dirtier than I meant it to.
That's why I liked it. That's what made it interesting. No, that makes total sense.
I would have said 50%.
He's phenomenal.
So would the show have really ended with Sam in Hell forever if you hadn't known you were renewed for season 6? There's a rumor that Dean would have jumped in with Sam to be with him forever if it didn't get picked up for season 6.
Hey, this is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. We are going to take a quick break.
Hey guys, it's Rob. I like to be dressed nice. I like wearing clothes that make me feel good about myself. I wouldn't say I'm like super big on trends. I don't even know what's in and what's out. All I know is when I feel good. And I found this place, Quince, online. It has everything. Well, first of all, it has everything you want to wear for summer. But they have the kind of clothes that I like to wear. And what's great is it's half the cost of other similar brands. So you go, all right, what's the catch? There's no catch. They work directly with top artisans and they cut out the middleman. So Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markups. But you say, but Rob, this is surely made at some kind of questionable factory. No. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And you say, Rob, the fabrics probably aren't great. They work with premium fabrics and finishes. But you say, Rob, they must only have clothes for you. No, they got clothes for everybody. Great clothing at half the cost. It's a true story. So I recently got one of these because I was anticipating summer. I got a short sleeve button-up number that it's white. It's linen, and it's very handsome. And I've been wearing it up and down the boulevard all around town to every function that I've invited to. Now, I have to get another one in a different color because it's getting... now I'm just the guy in the cool white linen shirt. And you know what? I'll take it. I like this product. I like what these guys are about. And I think you will too. Quince. Made well. Made quality. Made cool, and not so hard on the old pocketbook. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/STN for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/STN to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/STN.
You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey, it's Jeffrey D. Morgan again. Welcome back to the podcast.
There was never any plan for Dean to jump into hell with him.
Okay.
I actually ultimately think it's good they didn't leave the ending to me, because the ending that I had in mind was way more with like a horror movie DNA. Which I think would have been really unsatisfying. I mean, the scoop is like, now enough time has passed. Like, I'll tell you what it is. Like, no, I don't know if I've ever even said it publicly.
Here we go, guys.
So the way the ending was supposed to go is Sam goes into hell. Dean works his ass off to try to get him out in montage, kind of similar to what's there, but ultimately can't, because Dean's big emotional movement was he had to learn to let go of his brother, right? And so now the fact that his brother's being tortured in hell, I mean, my guess was when we originally came up with it, we weren't quite so specific. We didn't have like, remember we had Dean in that like Hellraiser chain world.
Right.
And so I think it was probably more like, oh, where did he go? But I'm going to let him go is what I remember. And then Dean goes back to Cindy.
Cindy's the actress.
Cindy
Sampson.
Cindy Sampson.
Yeah. So he goes back to Cindy, and then they have a baby, and it's a girl, and he names the baby Samantha. And then the final image would be like, he's got Samantha, and he kisses Samantha, and he kisses, Cindy, and he puts the baby in the crib, and they leave and they turn out the light. And then a dark figure comes over the crib, and it goes back to the teaser of Supernatural. And so there's a dark figure, and then it's like a hard blackout, and the strong implication is it's all going to start all over again.
Right.
And so Dean is going to become John, and Samantha is going to be the new demon hunter, and his wife is going to be on the ceiling, and
Whoa.
Sam is obviously going to get back into. So it's like it meant to end with like a really big question mark of like, oh, this story is going to continue. That was one thing I always loved about the Buffy ending, which is more hopeful than this. But like after they got rid of the Hellmouth, they were kind of like, all right, there's a bunch of other Hellmouths. Like, what are we going to do? And you push in on Buffy and you just know that the fight's going to continue. And I was trying to give it like my horror movie spin on that.
Right.
So that was the ending. It was
Interesting.
a lot of question marks and not a happy ending. It was going to be that horror movie, you know, Jason pops out of the water at the end. Kind of,
Yeah, but it kind of sets up
ending.
for a brilliant sort of like rebirth of the show. Like 20 years later, you could do it, you know?
Sure. Sure. Like
It's
my kids.
It's the Trapper John MD setup, you know?
All of our children can get together and
Yes,
make that show.
exactly.
Hold on a second. Can we just take a quick moment here to tip a cap to Rob's just timely Trapper John
I always
MD
love Trapper
reference?
John MD.
The kids,
Like,
if there's one thing the kids love,
it's
It's-
anything with Wayne Rogers in it. They just
Love
eat up.
it. No, and that, you know, that's, I always love that show. I always love the fact that it was like there's MASH and they take a character from the show that was a beloved show and they're like, what's he doing now? And then
I think it's great. You did a very timely reference. I also know you could have gone with Fish, the Abe Vigoda spinoff of Barney Miller. Would have been another great timely for the kids,
I'm just talking about
specifically for the
kids. I'm
listeners.
just talking about for the kids.
Joni loves Chachi.
We could have gone
Joni
with
Loves
that.
Chachi is right. It's a right now moment kind of show. Oh my god. Well, dude, that's like it. That's an interesting revelation
Yeah,
of what
yeah.
the show would have been. That's a trip, man. When you were finally not there,
Yeah.
season 7 rolls around, and now you're not coming in 2 days a week. Is that correct? You're just
Yeah,
you're doing Revolution.
Yeah,
and
I'm
moving on.
starting. I'm in the early stages of pitching Revolution.
Right. So at that point, miss it at all, or just happy to have your kid at college?
I went through an interesting emotional experience. You sort of like, I mean, I'm about to send my kid to college in about a year, so I'll let you know how similar it is to it. But I definitely had to learn to let go in a way that was honestly challenging for me. Like, I don't even know if I've ever told Sarah this, but like I would look at cuts and I would like write like these long cut note documents, so long, you know, of like, well, you know, it's got to be this and the tone, it's got to be that. And like the smartest thing I did about those documents is I slept on them. And then I like woke up in the morning and I read them over and I deleted them every time.
Wow.
Because I'm like, this is not my show and it's her show. And all I would be doing is throwing chaos at her. And, you know, in some of my earlier adventures, not in Supernatural, I know what it's like for like a drive-by producer to like come by and like fuck up all your shit. And I just was committed to not being that for her. So I had to just sort of like, I had to learn that process of like, it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be what I would have made, but it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And because it's got to be true to her.
It's very similar actually to sending a kid to college, I'd say.
Yeah. So what was it like when you sent off your kid?
Yeah, I mean that's really what it's like. It's like right now I'm going through that. My son's a senior and he's getting ready to in college, you know, and he's getting ready to go out into the world and you want to be like do it for him and then you're like, no, he's got to learn on his own and make his own mistakes and learn from his mistakes and all that. What would you say is the most important thing you learned on Supernatural that now that you're on that you can apply to the boys?
That's a good question. I would say two things. One is just in terms of like showrunner tips about how to do the job. I've said this in other places before, but the single best piece of showrunner advice I ever got was the very first piece of showrunner advice I ever got in my very first meeting with Bob. He said, look, the number one rule of showrunning is you're in the business of making decisions. The corollary of that rule is it does not have to be the right decision. And that to me is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. Like you have to make the call. Inertia or like stillness is death. I can sit with a showrunner and the minute they're like, you know what, give me the night to think about that. I'm like, oh, your show's going to fail.
Wow.
Because you have to keep the machine moving.
Wow.
And by the way, you keep it moving, we're going right. And then you drive home that night and you're like, fuck, we should have gone left. You can still come in the next morning and be like, you know what, guys, we're going left.
Going left. Right.
But they just need to know what they're doing. And when you say like, I don't know, then everything just stops. The machine grinds to a halt.
Right.
And even The Boys, which has more time and more money, it's the same thing. People need to know. They're waiting on you to give a decision. And so the longer you take for that decision, the harder it is for them to do their job.
Well, and I have to say, working on The Boys, like you really do make every decision too. Like they all depend on your word before they move on with. And honestly, I tell people that it was like working on a movie because it really was like everything is a decision. You know, what kind of holster should he have? What kind of, you know what I mean? Or what kind of, how many ball bearings should be in the penis? You know, it's like that's.
I mean, 4 is just ridiculous. What? It's got to be 3.
That's the kind of shit that gets somebody fired. Like
Not on our show.
The 4 ball bearing guy.
You know, and I'd say the other thing I learned that I'm really proud of is The Boys is actually a TV show. And in streaming, those are actually pretty rare. You know, like each episode has a beginning, middle, and end. They have like action sequences. They build to something. There's some kind of resolution. You know, that came out of my network experience. And the streaming shows where they're like, hang in there because season 5 or episode 5 is when it really takes off. And like that shit drives me nuts. Or like, it's really a 10-hour movie like that. Like, go make a movie.
Yeah.
This is a TV show. We are in the television business and it's our job to entertain you every hour. Like, I'm like, motherfuckers, I had to keep you coming back from the deodorant commercial. I didn't have, you know, streaming that you could move past. Like, I had to keep you entertained.
Right.
And that's something that I always have carried forward with me I've never lost sight of the fact that primarily we're entertainers. And I think a lot of people in this kind of like highfalutin streaming world, I think they forget that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's such a good point.
That is really interesting.
And you're so right. There's shows where like, season 1's not great, but you got to stick with it. You know?
Right. Yeah. No, like who's got 12 hours to just be like, you know, middle of season 2, trust me.
You'll be glad.
It really takes off.
So like you talk about the fact that you've got to be a decision maker. It's an essential skill for the job. Be crisp and clean with your decisions, even when they're maybe wrong. Looking back, is there anything that you did on the show that you wish you hadn't done? Like anytime you went right, you wish you'd gone left, or vice versa, a missed opportunity?
I'll have to think about that. I mean, you know, by and large, I mean, look, I regret certain terrible episodes. I regret having a racist truck. I regret trying to pull off insects on our budget. I mean, you know, they all had good intention.
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that again.
Yeah.
But those are very, very early. I mean, you're talking about like in the learning curve days of the show, basically.
Yeah, I would say in the later days, I was really proud of it. I mean, I was really proud of it. I mean, the truth is in those like 22 episode seasons, in any other show, like you're really hoping for like 4 or 5 great episodes. And I think we had a higher batting average, you know? I mean, I don't think,
oh my God, yeah.
I don't think every episode was a banger, but I think we had a higher, you know, batting average than most. And I was really happy about that. Here's a question. Did they ever do a Gremlins episode?
Not that we've seen.
It's not ringing a bell.
Because the one, and that's why I'm not sure whether they ended up doing it, because it was sort of infamous of like the one story that I always really wanted to do under my watch that I never got a chance to do was Gremlins. And because Gremlins are a real mythology that long predated the movie.
Well, sure, yeah.
Gremlins have been around since World War II.
Right.
And
isn't that the Twilight Zone episode?
The gremlin on the wing of the plane.
yeah, they're a big hairy one.
Yeah.
But the real, like, Roald Dahl wrote a short story about gremlins when he was a World War, because his experience as a World War II, I don't know if he was in a pilot, but he was an airman. And they're these little creatures who very specifically fuck with your machinery, right? And the movie kind of hints at that at times, like they get into the guy's plow and whatever, but like that's what they were known for. So you'd be flying on a mission and then your plane would, suddenly a part would break and and the mythology was a gremlin did that.
Right.
And so my notion was, okay, turns out gremlins are so small you can't see them. So I don't have to make like a bunch of puppets.
That's convenient.
But they get into the Impala. And so the Impala is the bad guy of the episode.
Oh, wow.
And the only solution, because there's, again, look at more trucks, right? I probably better I didn't do it. But like all the other cars and electronics and whatever, the rule was going to be the only way to stop them was to destroy them totally. And so then in the middle of the episode, it was going to infect the Impala. And so now Dean's like, I can't destroy it. I can't, like, how do I get the gremlins out of this thing? And it's like mowing over people and coming after me, but I can't destroy it. I have to save her. And then I don't think we ever got to the answer as to why, but like that was a story like I always loved, and it was totally doable.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like an impossible story to pull off because the only monsters you ever saw would have been like the blender that someone's hand was in, or the car, right. I don't know why we never ended up doing it. Maybe like I think it was like, because they ended up doing like that great episode Baby that was, that Robbie wrote, that was all within it.
Right.
But I think at the time the feeling was like, we don't have enough days in the schedule to do like a real Impala-centric episode.
Right.
Yeah, all car stunts.
It's basically all car gags all day.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. Did you ever think, as you sort of revealed Rob's character to be God and dealt with angels, was there ever a conversation about Jesus? Did you ever think about like, oh, we should tackle that?
I wasn't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, man. Like I am not getting like super specific about Jesus. The comic book sources that a lot of that stuff came from, like Preacher, and Garth Ennis, and they were all, I mean, yes, there is sort of like a whacked out Jesus character in that. But to me, it was like the binary, like God versus Lucifer without getting like too specific.
Right.
So that there's a lot of religions it could play under rather than, being with any one particular religion.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to be provocative without being, firebombed, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, right. That's the fine line you want to walk.
That's the line.
Just this side of being firebombed is a good life lesson.
We're going to let you go pretty soon. We just have a question I'm sure a lot of fans want to know. Is there anything more that you can tell us about Misha, Jared, and Jensen in season 5 of The Boys?
Literally right off camera, there's an Amazon delivery guy holding a gun on me.
We don't want that to happen.
I can't.
No, we don't want it.
And it was 2 days. Like he just opened the box and it came 2 days. No, I mean, I'll talk about the experience, which is because I went. I was
great.
like, look, it's going to be me and Phil and Jared and Jensen and Misha, like all together.
Yeah,
that's great.
For like basically like a week of filming. And, I don't want to say the context or give anything away, but it was so fun. And it felt like the best possible high school reunion. Cause while I've worked with Jensen, I haven't worked with Jared since, 2011.
Wow.
And same with Misha. So to get them in and for like me and Phil to come up to them and give them performance notes and just like working through it again. The way that you immediately fall back into all your old, relationships and patterns was just so delightful. Like one little mini story is I was sitting with Jared and Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander. And Jared was, I forget what the joke was or whatever, but Jared was giving me like no end of shit. And
that tracks.
yeah, right. And Ant was like, "Oh wait, we're allowed to do that?" You know, like he just didn't even. I was like, "Well, that was how things were then."
Yeah. That's really funny.
Stand down, Homelander. Not quite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
That's awesome. I love that idea that he's like, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. We could
mess with the
wait. We could have been giving this guy the whole time.
Yeah.
To that end, follow-up question, Vought Rising, that's super exciting. The prequel, or if it will, or spinoff. Any tidbits, any morsels you can spread about that?
Scripts are being written. Paul Grelong, who was one of the senior exec producers of The Boys, Revolution too, by the way, but The Boys. So he's running it and is doing an absolutely fantastic job. Scripts are being written, sets are being built, super suits are being made.
Amazing.
So exciting.
So it's in what we in the biz call soft prep, and then hard prep begins pretty darn soon, in probably like a month or 5 weeks, which means they officially open the offices. They start really hiring crew in earnest. I think it's aiming for an August shoot start.
Is this a Toronto show as well?
It'll be a Toronto show. And what's nice about it is the crew, maybe like 80% of the crew, 75% of the crew is going to wrap The Boys, take a month off, and then all go in mass over to Vought Rising.
Great.
That's awesome, especially for them.
Yeah. So they get a steady gig, and we get like in the million ways with which they maintain the house style, because they just know all the little idiosyncrasies of the sets, or, you know, how to move the camera.
Dude, it's like you're a recording studio with like the best recording session musicians there,
right,
ready to lay down the hits.
And you're bringing back the same session guys. That's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. And and Jensen will be, I love what Paul's doing with Soldier Boy and Jensen's character. And
great.
It's, you know, Paul was is like a playwright, like a real playwright, like had a show at the Geffen, and is just like super classy in a way that I am not. So like, it's so literate and smart, and like the dialogue crackles. And anyway, I'm excited for it.
That's really exciting, man.
That's right. That's so great, man. I think everybody who would be listening to this podcast is also incredibly excited about it, because this is the audience, man.
Yeah.
They're fired up.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
And
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much.
Dude, it's so great having you here, like to get the inside
scoop.
And this particular case, we got a lot of inside dope on things that you were saying you haven't really shared anywhere. So this is awesome, man. It's great to hear it and see it through the eyes of the man who
created it,
birthed it. So thank you.
Well, look, I always love hanging out with you guys. So
thanks, man.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you, Eric.
Good seeing you guys.
Yeah. We'll do it again. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, this is Mark Shepard. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the realms of peril and glory. Explore the mechanically magical vistas of Vale, the paranormal mysteries of liminal London, and the cyberpunk chaos of Cyborg. You'll be immersed into unforgettable campaigns and heart-pounding one-shots. Search Realms of Peril and Glory to find out more.
From the creators of the Leviathan Chronicles comes a new audio adventure. Join treasure hunters Captain Jeffrey Tully and Oberlin St. Clair as they build their dream research ship, the Invenios, and assemble a daring crew. But soon, their adventures plunge them into a globe-spanning conspiracy with hidden ties to Leviathan and visitors from beyond this world. The Invenios Expeditions, the newest series from Leviathan Audio Productions. Available June 17th, wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're back. Thanks.
So great, as always. You're such a great interviewer as well. Like he's a writer, and he knows how to construct an answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Sometimes when you meet the writers, I mean, although that has not been the case with Supernatural, but sometimes they can be a little bit more introverted.
Yeah.
And express themselves better through the written word. Not this fella. He's got them both down. He's a talker as well, and shares some great stories, man.
Yeah, no, it was so great. Going back to the source, you get the real answer, and it helps you and I load our ammo for when we get asked those questions at conventions. I mean, now we really have an answer for it.
Yeah, and he's just so passionate about everything.
Yeah,
passionate about staying, and passionate about transitioning with Sarah, and in his new work with the boys in Vault Rising and Gen V. And, he's just a passionate guy who puts everything on the table when it comes to his work on these shows.
Yeah,
really
and he does. He really appreciates the fans of Supernatural. He appreciates the show itself. He's very proud of it. And so it's just a delight to talk to him about it.
Yeah, you're right. That pride is still very, very front and center when you talk to him.
Yeah. Good dude all around. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Kripke Reloaded.
This time, it's personal.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
This time, it's Booty.
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube at SPN Then and Now.
Become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now.
We have about a month and change to finish. Mr. Phil Segresha is currently prepping the series finale, America's Sweetheart. And so the final script's been written. It's all in the books. We're prepping all the visual effects and the fights. And so it's definitely coming to an end. The production is, you always forget how hard production is. That I'm sad that it's coming to an end, but I'm also like, oh my God, I need to sleep. Can someone just let me sleep? So I have mixed feelings. At one point I feel ennui. On the other side, I just want to sleep.
I know that we're going to talk Supernatural, but The Boys is a technical monster. The amount of effects you guys, and I'd never worked on, I'm just as a viewer, I'm watching this thing going, what? I mean, it's got to be, your visual effects budget has to rival the GDP of the United States. I mean, it's got to be massive.
It does. It's so funny you say that. Yeah, we have a big VFX budget. It's never enough. But we have a big VFX budget. We have a pretty long schedule, all things considered, especially compared to Supernatural. By the way, this is our first podcast since we officially, exposed Splinter to the world.
And exposed is the correct terminology.
So I have a question. I want to hear, Rob. So seeing it, because what was funny was we had a screening, but you had to leave because you were flying to a convention or something before the sauna scene. And so, I think the sauna scene, but not the ending. So what was your reaction? What were people's reaction? How horrible was it?
Honestly, for me, because I get asked about it all the time, and 70-80% of the time, people are like, "Why? Why did you do that to us? Why did you say yes to that?" And I was like, I thought it was funny, and I stand by that. I think it's hilarious. It still makes me laugh. It's ridiculous. It's over the top, but I love it. And to me, the thing that people never ask about, but to me, the thing that was so cool is the whole fight sequence, which we worked so hard at. And even that opening shot where I'm loading the stage with all the different, never been done before, that shot. And so just, like what Richard was saying, technically it's a masterpiece in terms of putting that kind of thing together. So
yeah, I gave Rob a lot of props when I saw it. I'm like, obviously everybody's going to talk about, that was his Hitchcock shower scene, right? I mean, that was but what you don't remember is that you see her in the bra in the hotel room earlier. Rob's playing 5 or 6 different versions of himself was awesome because they were all slightly different. You know what I mean? Like, it was an acting challenge that he really delivered highly on, you know?
It's funny. I was thinking of you because I just saw the movie. Sinners.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? I was thinking of you because I was like, Michael B. Jordan very reasonably and justifiably is getting all these props for playing these two roles, and he plays them just subtly different. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Rob did 12 of those. And they were all in the same shot. And by the way, I think the reason you don't get questions about the fight is because it's so seamlessly done that people don't see or realize the illusion that the whole team is only fighting you.
Right.
And, and that's a testament to Karen, the director, and VFX. But I officially apologize for the ass eating scene. I only want you to get props from it. I thought it was so brave, and to be able to commit to a bit to go for comedy as bravely as you went for comedy in that is you'll always have a special place in my heart for that.
I gotta tell you, we just did a convention in New Jersey, and Rob, you know the story I'm going to tell. Rob got a question. Somebody was asking about the boys, and they said, "Was that really yours?" So Rob then did a 15-minute dissertation on the choosing of the phallus and the importance of matching your wang to the other fighters and all of the the table of wangs and all these things, only to have the young lady go, that was not my question. So,
sir, this is an Arby's.
He was just talking about the butt. She's like, that's not, you misunderstood my question. It's like, oh, okay.
I asked if he wanted fries with that.
Yeah, she was asking about the butt.
By the way, my favorite of the dong details was there are 3 or 4 ball bearings in the head of every dong, because that's what we needed for it to be weighted and swing properly.
And I tell people that I had to go into a room with the producers that were there, and while they filmed me naked with the wiener doing moves like this, and then they'd send it to you back in LA, and you gave the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay, so I mean, thanks for indulging these questions. I haven't ever had a chance to talk to you about this, but did it feel weirdly did it feel better or worse because you're not actually going through that sequence naked? You're actually going through that sequence wearing a bikini bottom, which is obviously not, but you're not nude. You're not nude.
No, it felt like it was in a G-string. It really did feel a lot better, because I was worried going up there, because it was never clear to me if it was going to be real me or fake me. I didn't know until I landed, and I went to this VFX room, and they had all those dongs on the table, and I was like, oh, is that for me? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, thank but no, man, look, I have to be honest. I had a blast doing it. I think it's really funny. It honestly surprises me how freaked out people were by it. This one woman said she couldn't buy my band t-shirt because it had a picture of me on the front with my head shaved. And she was like, it's too much like Splinter. I can't look at you like that.
It's also like the crossbreeding of the audiences is a little, I think people get a little shocked from one.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, totally. Anyway, thank you. My hat's off to you, sir. I
appreciate the opportunity. It was fun, and it's a great character. It's a great idea for a character.
It's great. It was so great. I loved it. I thought Rob crushed it.
I agree.
Story Mill Media.
American history is full of infamous tales that continue to captivate audiences decades or even hundreds of years after they happened. On the Infamous America podcast, you'll hear the true stories of the Salem witch trials and the escape attempts from Alcatraz, of bank robbers like John Dillinger and Pretty Boy Floyd, of killers like Lizzie Borden and Charles Starkweather, of mysteries like the Black Dahlia and D.B. Cooper, and of events that inspired movies like Goodfellas, Killers of the Flower Moon, Zodiac, 8 Men Out, and many more. I'm Chris Wimmer. Join me as we crisscross the country from the Miami drug wars and Dixie Mafia in the South, to mobsters in Chicago and New York, to arsonists, kidnappers, and killers in California, to unsolved mysteries in the heartland and in remote corners of Alaska. Every episode features narrative writing and cinematic music, and there are hundreds of episodes available to binge. Find Infamous America wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Amy Nicholson, the film critic for the LA Times.
And I'm Paul Scheer, an actor, writer, and director. You might know me from The League, Veep, or my non-eligible for Academy Award role in Twisters.
We love movies, and we come at them from different perspectives.
Yeah, like Amy thinks that, Joe Pesci was miscast in Goodfellas, and I don't.
He's too old. Let's not forget that Paul thinks that Dune 2 is overrated.
It is.
Anyway, despite this, we come together to host Unspooled, a podcast where we talk about good movies, critical hits,
fan favorites, must-sees, and in case you missed them.
We're talking Parasite to Home Alone.
From Grease to The Dark Knight.
We've done deep dives on popcorn flicks. We've talked about why Independence Day deserves a second look.
And we've talked about horror movies, some that you've never even heard of, like Ganja and Hess.
So if you love movies like we do, come along on our cinematic adventure.
Listen to Unspooled wherever you get your podcasts.
And don't forget to hit the follow button.